Hi guys, welcome to my new channel. Um, as you guys will know, if you know me from TikTok, this channel is to react to videos, draw attention to our platform, because we're trying to raise awareness about my daughter who was killed by staff at Nottingham City Hospital, and they've covered up her death. And her death is part of the Nottingham maternity scandal, which is the largest maternity scandal in UK history, being investigated by Nottinghamshire Police in the largest police investigation in the history of Nottingham. So I'm offering interesting insights and perspectives. Today we're going to be talking about the Lucy Letby case, but I'll be reacting to pretty much anything. My name's Amma. I feel like I have some pretty interesting and unique takes on things. So if you know me, please give us a subscribe, send me videos that you want me to react to, and yeah, that's all. You'll be seeing more content from me on a regular basis. So let's get into this. So this guy, I believe, is Dr. Sue, who, if I'm not mistaken, is the air embolism expert. And air embolism, if you, according to the New Yorker article on the Letby case, which is banned in the UK, if you look up the air embolism method of being killed, there's only like 53 instances in the medical literature of people being killed this way. So it was already extremely dubious. And again, there's something that I know about that particular thing that I can't reveal to the public yet. But so this guy, I guess, is calling into doubt the whole thing. I haven't seen the whole 2 hour thing. I will watch it for when I go live on TikTok. But let's get into this.
Ladies and gentlemen, we did not find any murders. In all cases, death or injury were due to natural causes or just bad medical care. Lucy was charged with 7 murders and 7 attempted murders. In our opinion, the medical evidence doesn't support murder in any of these babies, just natural causes and bad medical care. Finally, we hope the authorities will consider our findings seriously and act accordingly, because you will not find a better panel of experts anywhere in the world. These are the best in the world that you can find.
Yeah.
And they come from the most prestigious institutions.
Yeah. So this panel actually is an international panel of medical examiners, if I'm not mistaken. And it's interesting that they said that, so Lucy was charged with 7 murders and 14 attempts, and they're saying none of them are valid. Now, my question is, who is the person that referred these to the police, these cases? Why did the police investigate? I know that the police investigated because of the referral from the medical authorities, but we've got questions. We've got like, what is the incentive for them to do that? And then we've also got, how did we manage to get 7 M convictions if none of them have evidence of M? That, my friends, is the definition of a cover-up. This is what happens in the NHS when you raise concerns. This is what happens when you're targeted by the medical authorities, the medical mafia in the UK. And let's get into another video about this, because this is interesting. This is what I've been saying for over a year and a half. A lot of people have been saying this. I've been ridiculed. I've been called a conspiracy theorist, and I've known what I'm talking about. So let's get into. We got some other videos on this topic. Let's dive in. I think they're just lined up on the next.
Archers Joshi Spaniards. Can I ask Professor Ninamobi, with your experience of the BMA and Royal Colleges and the NHS, does this evidence point to yet another maternity scandal in the NHS?
And by the way, the maternity scandal that they're referring to in the UK has been gripped by numerous maternity scandals in the past few decades, really. And currently, and this is a scandal my daughter was killed as part of. There's a Nottingham maternity scandal. This is the largest maternity scandal in NHS history. And there's a police investigation into the scandal. It's the largest police investigation in the history of Nottingham. So what this means basically is, what they're asking is this another scandal? Is this another case where babies are being killed on a ward or dying essentially through negligence on a ward, and it's being covered up? There can only be a scandal when deaths are being covered up. Now, in the case of the scandal where my daughter's been killed in, I'm alleging that there is a criminal organization within Nottingham University Hospitals Trust. This is my allegation. This is the allegation I'm putting before the court this year. We have lawyers. Our case has been reviewed. We are going to win. So if you are from the trust and you see anything that I've put out, you are going to be in prison if you've been involved in any criminal activity. But yeah, they're asking, is this another maternity scandal? The answer essentially is yes and no. Yes, it's a maternity scandal because babies keep dying on wards in the UK and it keeps getting covered up. But no, because this is kind of the norm. This happens up and down the country. It's been going on for years, and there's only scandals because it gets covered up. The police then don't investigate the cases properly. The local council sometimes are involved in silencing the people that speak out, such as myself. And the hospital will defame you, fabricate records, obstruct the coroner. They will malign you. They will ban you from the hospital. Anything they can do to cover up, this is what they do. And in the case of Lucy, for these deaths, they've actually scapegoated her, framed her, and imprisoned her. And she's considered the most prolific serial killer in the history of the UK, which of course she's not. But what an indictment of the UK, this level of corruption involving hundreds of professionals. Hundreds of professionals. Let's go on.
Thank you very much. I want to make it quite clear that I'm here in a personal capacity. I'm not representing any organisation, not the BMA, not the RCPCH or any other organisation. What we have shown is, as Professor Lee has outlined to you, that there were plausible reasons, very, very plausible reasons for these babies' deaths. And that there was a combination, if you take the totality of the 17 cases, there was a combination of babies being in the wrong place.
Oh, they said 17 cases, so that would be what? I mean, why is it 17? Is that 7 because it's 7 deaths, and then I'm assuming then what they're saying that she got convicted of 10 AMs? Okay, that's on.
Delivered in the wrong place, delayed diagnosis, and inappropriate or absent treatment. It was not our brief to comment on the wider issues facing the NHS or on other maternity reports that have been issued recently. But I would say to you too, there are clearly systemic factors that are at play that we've identified, as well as individual factors which we have also identified.
So some of those systemic factors will be, for example, the health secretary did I think it was either the health secretary, the ombudsman, the Parliamentary Health Service ombudsman in the UK, ordered an emergency review into the NHS, and they found that there was a culture of cover-up where whistleblowers are victimized. So some of those systemic issues will be the cover-up culture. And I've said this many times on live, that a cover-up culture is just a euphemism for organized fraud, and organized fraud is organized crime. So what we are in the grips of in the UK is a mafia. It is organized crime, by involving extremely powerful people that their medical testimony will be believed in court, people that can have you silenced, put in prison, have your housing taken off you by the council, people that can, have you gagged by the court. These people are the people running the NHS, a group of organized criminals. They move around. Sometimes they'll be the head of the council, then all of a sudden they're the CEO of a hospital. Their lackeys who do their bidding will be promoted to higher positions. So I'm calling it now, and I'm one of the only people saying this. The NHS is in the grips of organized crime groups. Let's go on. Oh, that's finished. We've got another video, I think, in the lineup. Okay.
Lucy Letby claimed that new evidence could prove she's actually a victim of a miscarriage of justice. Now, lawyers for killer nurse Lucy Letby claim that new evidence could prove she's actually a victim of a miscarriage of justice. An independent review of the infant's deaths.
Miscarriage of justice. It's not a miscarriage of justice. It's she's being framed by criminals. It's crime, not a miscarriage of justice. Well, her conviction is a miscarriage of justice, but it's miscarriages implying that something is not going the path down that it's supposed to, and this is deliberate and organized. And I'm sure that many of the people in the prosecution and in the court and in the health authorities in the UK knew that she was innocent, and they were trying to prevent a scandal deliberately.
Will be presented by retired neonatal.
You got it, buddy.
How do you pronounce it?
Neonatal.
I've never even heard that word before. A neonatal expert, Dr. Shu Li, tomorrow. 35-year-old Letby is currently serving a whole life term for killing 7 babies and the attempted murder of 7 others.
And remember, guys, not only are they saying that she's innocent of them, they're saying the babies were not even emmed. So not only is she actually not guilty, but the case is not even emmed. So this doesn't even meet the standard for criminal prosecution, let alone conviction. Imagine that.
Let's speak with Edward Abel-Smith, co-host of Was There Ever a Crime? The Trials of Lucy Letby. Edward, good afternoon to you. Thank you for being with us. Just give us a little background here. How did you first get involved and suspicious, if that's the right word, as to what had happened here with Letby?
Hi, afternoon, Ian. Thanks for having me on. Oops, sorry, I've just done my thing by accident. I got involved with this because I've been working on or writing about several different miscarriages of justice or claims of miscarriages of justice, and so many people kind of in that space, in that world, were saying to me, "Have you looked at Lucy Letby?" And as you said in your introduction just before the break. It was something that I really didn't want to get involved with at all because it's such a...
I know that everyone, people always talk about when she was arrested and her response, her reaction. I know exactly how she felt. This is how I felt when they tried to frame me with social services when my daughter was on the neonatal ward and they were trying to have our twins illegally kidnapped from us. I'll just be blunt with what they were trying to do. And people always ask, why didn't they call out? Why didn't they scream? Why didn't they say something? Anything you do, these people frame you as, if you scream out, they'll say, oh, look, you're crazed person. If you cry, they'll say, oh, look at the guilt is surfacing. If you're silent, they'll say, oh, yes, the somber face of a mass murderer. Like, you can't respond. And sometimes it's better to just keep your cool when they target you. In my case, I was barely even saying or doing anything. And they're like, oh, Dad's being aggressive today. I'm just like, okay. But yeah, I mean, obviously you guys will hear more about my case as things go. I'll probably do a whole video on it once we get it into court. But yeah, I know exactly how she feels in this moment.
A harrowing, horrific story that's just unimaginable for the parents and those going through it. So yeah. I didn't want to get involved with it, but I think as I started to read a few bits about it, and the same with my colleague who I do the podcast with, John Sweeney, it's clear there is no actual evidence that no real evidence used to convict Lucy Letby.
So she was convicted. If you read the appeal document, even the court acknowledges that she was convicted based on circumstantial evidence. Now, circumstantial evidence, you can be convicted of a crime or not. Like, let's say you're on camera in an area and no one else is in that area and someone dies, and you make an off the cuff comment about and they deserved it. That's not video evidence, it's not DNA evidence, but you were the only person in the area and a jury could convict. Contrary to popular belief, juries don't actually have to follow the law. And actually, no one has to follow the law. The law is administered at the court. It's administered when a jury convicts you. Criminal law is administered when a jury convicts you, and a jury can use something called the juror's conscience, and they can just acquit you based on them thinking that you didn't do it or not wanting you to be convicted or disagreement with the actual statute in question or the law in question. Or conversely, they can convict you even if the evidence is lacking, like in the case of Lucy Letby. There was also many issues with the trial itself, where you have the judge instructing the jury to take into account the fact that she'd been convicted of previous M's. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know how that affects the impartiality of the jury, but many things to call into question with the Letby case. And yeah, she was convicted based on not no evidence, but based on circumstantial evidence. In some cases, which we've now found was not even circumstantial evidence, like her being convicted of killing the baby when she wasn't even present on the ward. And then also the fact that her simply being registered as being present on the ward does not necessarily mean she was actually literally there with that baby. So weak evidence, circumstantial evidence, virtually no evidence, but not categorically no evidence.
So regardless of whether people think she's innocent or guilty, the most prolific child serial killer of our time has been convicted based on no real evidence.
So circumstantial, things she wrote in a book, where she might have been on duty, but no hardened, tangible way of literally and specifically linking her to those crimes.
Exactly. No one saw her conducting any of the murders or attempts.
Everyone's blowing up my phone today about Letby. I haven't even been checking my WhatsApps or TikTok messages today, but yeah, everyone's. So as this came out today at 10 o'clock, we're at 5 o'clock now. I was live earlier. Oops. And yeah, everyone's already messaging me. Oh, let me case, because I've been the one vocal about it online. I really should call my dad and see what he thinks, because he didn't. Well, he considers me a conspiracy theorist, but let's see.
Attempted murders, and all of the circumstantial evidence, and you know, it's important to say for balance that circumstantial evidence gets used in murder trials or in all trials, you know, is often used and shouldn't be ruled out. However, in the case of Lucy Letby, a big part of the circumstantial evidence.
Dad, just so you know, I'm actually filming a video right now, but I'm calling you because I want to see. I can't be on the call for too long. I'll call you after. But I wanted to know what your opinion is live on this video about the news about the Letby case. Did you see it?
I didn't see the video.
Oh, okay. You heard. Yeah, just briefly, like, what do you actually think about this her potentially now being not guilty, and this panel of medical examiners or medical experts saying that there's no evidence of murder?
Well, I'm not following the case. Everything I know about that case is from my conversation with you.
Yeah.
So I have no opinion.
Yeah, fair enough. You're being a diplomat now, but you remember I've been saying this whole time that she's not guilty. Remember? Yeah. Fair enough.
I remember that, and I was querying your reasons for saying that.
Yeah. No, to be fair, you was being open-minded actually.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna call you after I finish doing this video. I just wanted to get.
Let me ask you just one question.
Sure.
I've been thinking of you. In fact, I want
Wait, if it's about something else, I'm literally in a video, so if it's personal, I'll have to wait after. But
okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'll call you after.
All
right.
Okay.
Yeah. So there you go. There's a confirmation. I thought my dad would give a proper opinion, but he hasn't been following it that well. Right.
Was her presence, and people would have heard in the kind of early stages of her trial, in the reporting, that she was present at every suspicious event, and that's been proved to be factually incorrect. So even a lot of the circumstantial evidence now is under serious question.
Yes, and as you can see here, so they're saying a lot of the stuff I've said. Probably these people have read the New Yorker article that was banned, because this is some of the evidence. I mean, we've got other evidence, me and my kind of cohort of scallywags that do read into things. We've got information that the public doesn't actually have about the Letby case. Two major things that I could reveal. But as you can see here, you got, look, Dr. Shuli criticized use of his air embolism research. So yeah, as I was correct, this guy is an expert on air embolism. And if I'm not mistaken, they were suggesting that the color change of the babies indicated air embolism, and then he was refuting that point because he's considered like an I think he wrote a book in like the 90s about air embolism, and he's saying that that's not the likely cause of death in these cases. In fact, he's saying that he doesn't think that there were murders. Very interesting. Let's carry on.
And that seems to be central, as I understand it, to this review being unveiled, talked about tomorrow. I think neonatologist is the word I was looking for. I've never heard that phrase before. Neonatologist. Never heard that.
I love you,
neonatologist Dr. Shuli. Central to what I think is going to be presented is this business of her not even being there when some of these deaths or near deaths occurred. Is that correct?
Yeah, kind of.
Convicted of an attempted M when you weren't even there. Imagine. So no evidence that the child actually died. You're not there and you get convicted. I mean, what does this say about the justice system, human beings, and our witch hunts? Like I say, witch hunt. I've had a witch hunt against me. I've had many witch hunts against me in my life, but you know, trying to frame me and harass me and abuse me and my family over my child's death when you know that your staff unalived or killed my child. I mean, witch hunt. We really need to start being honest and accountable as human beings and look into how we criticize and judge our fellow man, because this is crazy. I mean, this could be the nail in the coffin for the UK's reputation. The reputation's already dead in the eyes of people that really know what's going on in this country, but this is unbelievable.
Kind of. So obviously the piece has been revealed tomorrow morning. You know, we'll obviously know more after that. but Letby serving 15 whole life orders for seven murders and 8 attempted murders. And it's now been called into question how many of those she was actually present at. Dr. Xu Li wrote a paper a long time ago about what's called air embolisms, effectively if air gets injected into.
What does that say? I think you know that. What are we seeing right now? I wanted you to stand by me. Oh yeah, and then there was all of this stuff about her potentially being in a relationship with one of the doctors, so he might have had a vested interest in framing her. Then there's information I learned about one of the babies. Something happened, which I'm not going to say, potentially beginning with a V, to one of the babies, and then the baby died, and Letby was standing over the baby trying to resuscitate the baby. So apparently, there was a vested interest there to cover that particular baby's death up. So it's just, but yeah, sorry.
To the bloodstream, and that his paper was relied on heavily by the prosecution to convict Lucy Letby, but he has since claimed that his research has been misinterpreted. So I believe that a lot of what tomorrow we'll be looking at will be his research and whether it could actually be relied on in the way that the prosecution relied on it. I should just say, it's not that his research wasn't accurate or wasn't correct. It's more that the way it had been used and interpreted, he believes is wrong.
We'll dodge that defamation lawsuit, but will he be able to file a lawsuit if he ends up like Carrie Mullins?
Many people, understandably, will be listening to this conversation and other similar ones. You'll be familiar. Your podcast, Peter Hitchens, as well, the journalist, has spoken, been very vocal about this too, and there are others. But the counter always seems to be, well, hang on a second. Look, this was a very lengthy court case, a huge police investigation. Goodness knows how many clinicians and experts came into the room to talk about this. Of course, you can have a miscarriage of justice in any court setting. Our legal history shows us that. But to have 15 or 20 of them, really? I mean, sometimes there might not be a tangible DNA example of evidence, but when you put lots of things together, then a court is able to examine it from that perspective.
But that's not how they're supposed to. I don't know if this guy knows what he's on about, but they're not supposed to do that. Each trial should be distinct, and the evidence for it should be examined in and of itself. Like, if somebody's been committed an M before, that doesn't mean that they've committed another one. You have to look at the evidence in the case. You can't just compile, compile a case file of all different things that happen and assign it. And that's what they've done in this case. And in addition, there was a trial by media. So how impartial was the jury really? And you've got the cherry picking, which I will touch on maybe in a later video, but I have evidence that the police in the UK cherry pick cases based on them not wanting to include other cases that would undermine the prosecution's case. For example, they only included in their tabular, information, the cases that Lucy was present for where the babies died. But what about the hundreds of times she was on the ward where the babies didn't die? Well, they wouldn't include those cases, or where the babies died and she wasn't there. They wouldn't include those cases deliberately because they wouldn't want to undermine the prosecution's case. And that cherry picking is actually fatal to any statistical inference that you can draw from circumstantial evidence about, someone's presence, implying that they could be guilty of doing something to a child.
On balance, a jury decided there was enough evidence to convict her. So whilst these stories are very seductive and certainly make us think, there is still, do you, and I'm sure you're aware of this, Edward, but do you kind of sympathise with the other view that, this was not, a North Korean kangaroo court. This happened with some very high-profile, well-qualified people in attendance giving.
Well, high-profile people that might have had an agenda, one. Two, clearly an uninformed jury that wasn't presented with the proper evidence. And three, this also raises interesting questions about the strength of a jury, because, we know the jury can be overridden by the Court of Appeals, but what does this say about juries? Are they going to get rid of juries now? Like, I think there's going to be some fundamental questions to answer about how we do crime and punishment in the UK, because we've got the cherry picking issue, then we've got the uninformed jury issue, we've got the issue of medical expert testimony being considered better or more reliable, more important than the testimony of a layman. All of these things have culminated, have created this Letby situation.
Giving witness statements and lots of other areas that were looked about the court would claim, in a very thorough way.
Yeah, I think it's a very fair point to raise. I think the main piece that sort of stuck with me when I was looking at that question was there were, as you say, many expert witnesses used to convict Lucy Letby. Her defence called no expert witnesses. Now, one of the reasons maybe they didn't call any expert witnesses is because none of them wanted to come forward or were able to come forward to defend her. But
maybe they didn't want to go up against the Frankenstein's monster that is the NHS and its medical mafia. And also maybe the experts for the prosecution, well, clearly the experts for the prosecution were not unbiased and perhaps were put in position by certain individuals to secure a conviction. Again, the information I want to release soon implies that there are certain individuals connected to certain cases that perhaps could be used for that very purpose. Guys, follow me if you want to see more information that I release. We'll give it a few more minutes.
We now know, as we'll see tomorrow, and as we've seen subsequent to her conviction, there are almost hundreds of experts coming forward, neonatologists, statisticians, paediatricians, all coming forward questioning this conviction. I don't know why, and I don't think anyone really knows, apart from the defence team themselves and maybe Letby herself, why they didn't call any experts. But if if a doctor tells me that my sore thumb is a broken thumb, and then I go and see 10 other doctors and they all tell me the same thing, I'm probably going to believe them. So I don't know why that happened, but I can understand.
Why not ask to see the x-ray? That's the problem. People trust doctors too much. They don't realize that doctors are not as smart as people think. Decentralized healthcare. Doctors are not as smart as people think. Follow my TikTok, guys, if you want to hear more of my arguments about that. We go live almost every day.
By a jury, just receiving expert prosecution evidence would then go on to convict.
That is extraordinary that didn't happen. What one can only perhaps assume, did the defence think that their case was so clear-cut because there was no obvious evidence to specifically link her to these crimes that you wouldn't need it? And, let the prosecution do their thing. Our position will be, we'll prove it, and you won't be able to prove it, but the might of the expert witnesses for the prosecution perhaps did the job. Would that be...
Yeah, and that's exactly what I've been saying. So it's like, Lucy was convicted purely because of who was accusing her. And that is a fundamental issue with how the court works. I believe maybe we need to do something different. I think maybe we need to have medical judges so that we don't have to consider medical testimony more important. We need judges that understand the medical evidence themselves. Something needs to change, because you can't be guilty just because the people that are accusing you are medical experts. That's what's happened in the Letby case.
The thinking, maybe? I don't know. It's hard to second guess what they were thinking.
I don't know.
And of course, they would have thought that the burden is on the prosecution to prove. How can they prove it? And little do they know the level of bias that there is towards medical experts.
I think that probably was the case. There could have been something that happened in courts, in conversations with the judge and the prosecution team that meant that experts they wanted to call weren't called. The only witness who testified on Lucy Letby's behalf for her defence was the plumber in the hospital, and he was very good, but clearly is not a medical expert.
Yeah,
wouldn't say he was very good, because his argument didn't really have any substantial impact on whether or not she was guilty or not, because he was saying that there was this issue of the sewage affecting the ward, but the dates didn't even align with the dates of the supposed deaths of the baby. So it's like he just presented like a hypothesis of what could have happened. It wasn't exactly strong evidence in her defense. It just raised questions. But now that I think about it, the defense had a really, really weak case. I was thinking, well, why would she have bad lawyers? They're probably really good at the job. But surely it's a no-brainer. Bring some medical experts on, you know, or again, maybe they're just scared of Frankenstein's monster. I don't know.
Are you... look, you're a journalist. The word hopeful isn't the right word. Are you... do you sense that tomorrow could be a turning point? I mean, it's all very well talking about an independent review, but you know, it's all, and the press turning up to have a listen, and shows like this having a debate about it. But of course, you know, it's higher tiers within life that need to be listening to this.
I think I don't know, to be honest, and partly because being involved in several of these types of cases, it's the system takes a really long time. And, you know, we've seen with the likes of Andy Malkinson, obviously a very famous, infamous miscarriage of justice. You know, it took a very long time for him to get through the Criminal Cases Review Commission, the CCRC, and that's the route that Lucy Letby will need to go through. So I think it will add some more weight maybe to the argument. But
it also doesn't need to go through that pathway. Theoretically, there could be a king's pardon, or what's the other thing that the king can do? I can't remember. There's a pardon, then there's another thing that the king can do, which is like where they basically say, okay, I did it, but I'm going to let you off. You did it, but we're going to let you off. And then there's you didn't do it. Exoneration. I don't know if there's. I think it's pardon and exoneration. The king can probably do both. Mr. Charles or Sir Charles, would you do us all a favour?
I'm not sure how much impact it will have, certainly not immediately.
Well, listen, Edward, thank you. We will, of course, cover this tomorrow on the programme. But
there you go. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed my first video. Tried to give you some insights there. Anything else you want me to react on, let me know. Like I say, massive indictment of the UK. This is the kind of topics I talk about on live. My TikTok is Adora Story, ADAORAS_story. You can hear more about what happened to my daughter at Nottingham City Hospital. It's also in the news. We were part of a documentary on ITV called Maternity Broken Trust. You can check that out. And you can also check out the documentary that we're filming, which is coming soon, which I think our case is on this level, honestly, about what happened to us. I know I seem in decent spirits today, but I have severe PTSD. I'm still fighting for an inquest for my daughter, so justice for baby Dora, and this channel's in her memory. So guys, give us a follow, give us a share. If you're interested in our TikTok, check it out. Listen to us when we go live. Become a star subscriber, which there's a video explaining what the star subscribers get. Peace.